Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? It is your Cape Crusader, Cody, and I'm here with my awesome friend, Cypher, and we are keeping it geekly with Peacemaker, and I am excited to break down this phenomenal show. Cypher, how are you? Welcome on the show. Give us a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, well, what you want to know? I'm not a very interesting person, man. Former Twitch streamer. Obviously, that's where I met you. Do a podcast, work as a mechanic for a living. That's about it. I'm not an interesting person.
hey, that's interesting enough. I know enough about you to know that's not the full truth. Very modest and humble person. So everyone, for not in the know, Peacemaker is an American television series created by James Gunn for the streaming service HBO Max, based on the DC comic character Peacemaker, and it is a part of the expanded DC universe from the Suicide Squad. Right when Bloodsport and Peacemaker went head to head, we were led to believe that he died, but that's not the case. So let's go ahead. What we're going to do is break down this show and by episode and pretty much give our thoughts on how everything went. So the first episode is called A Whole New World. And this is 5 months after the mission with the Suicide Squad, and he's recovered from all his injuries and he's getting discharged from the hospital. And I thought that was a really interesting scene, just kind of seeing him come to life. The way he was, talking and communicating with the janitor, and just, trying to break out of it without realizing Amanda Waller is hot on his trail.
Yeah, the conversation with Jamil was hilarious.
Yeah. So what was your thoughts and your initial impression watching this show?
As a whole, or this particular episode?
Just like the first episode. For me, when I went into it, I was expecting the Peacemaker, persona, but I wasn't expecting it to like grip my attention the way it did. Things get really insane. The hospital was kind of, I was like, this is an interesting start, but when he meets his piece of shit dad, Augie, and Eagly is pretty much what sealed the deal for me with the first episode. I was like, yes, dude, I'm in love with Eagly.
Well, I actually went into this show backward. I hadn't seen Suicide Squad yet. I literally caught a random trailer that John Cena posted on Twitter. Like, this is gonna blow your mind, and he did not disappoint. I'm like, okay, I need to see this show. I know nothing about the character, but I need to see it. So, being fairly ignorant about the whole Corto Maltese thing, the whole Suicide Squad thing, the whole Bloodsport taking him out, the whole thing, I was very ignorant to the whole thing. So the hospital, when they showed him and he only had the cuts and bruises, he only had like his collarbone broken and replaced. I'm like, it didn't hold much weight for me, I won't lie to you, but the conversation between him and the janitor is really what set it off for me. It's like, there's no hero named Peacemaker. Oh, the racist one. I'm like, okay, like, this is...
He's like, man, that's not my fault. It's like, I go after people who are breaking crime. He's like, maybe try to aim for more whites.
Maybe you need to pay attention as much to white people as you do minorities. He's okay, I'll kill more white people. Will that make you feel better? It's a start.
And, I really thought that was an interesting spin on it, because as we later discover, his father, Augie Smith, aka White Dragon, is really racist. And you could really see throughout the different episodes how his influence really shaped Peacemaker's, like, just his vision and what led him to be who he is. And you see a lot of redemption for his character in the later parts of the episode. But so this one in particular gets a little bit more insane. We see Peacemaker hook up with a certain individual, and hold on, let me backtrack. We're getting to the episode, the end of the episode. He before that, he gets pretty much apprehended. I don't know how you would say it. He gets confronted by a group outside of the Suicide Squad, and they're led by Morn, and they want to take him and do a secret mission against the Butterflies. And at the time, he has no idea what the Butterflies are. We have no idea what the Butterflies are. It's just a crazy name. And little does everyone know, though, Amanda Waller's daughter is a part of this team. So,
man, I made a point to remember her name and I forgot it. But yeah,
So her name is, I cannot pronounce it. It's Adebayo.
Oh, Adebayo. There we go.
Adebayo. So
yeah, and Adebayo and Economist. I kept. I'm like, I got it. Those are the two difficult ones.
Diebeard.
So, oh man.
So it's during this episode though, we see a lot of the team building, the introduction to the team that he's going to be a part of. And then we get a rather interesting and spicy scene where he is at the bar. He shacks up with a certain individual. Little does he know, though, that this person is a butterfly.
Of the 80s variety.
Yeah. What was your thoughts on that? Like, I mean, I loved the music. I thought it was great for what it did for his character. They actually took it kind of far, too. I didn't think we were going to see that sort of scene this early.
Oh yeah, they really made a point to set up his character that he's not just this cold, methodical killer that everyone believes him to be.
Mm-hmm.
That he has such an incredibly deep layer, into him. It's astonishing.
And this fight scene was just phenomenal. It was insane. We find out that the butterflies just have superhuman strength, and she is able to match Peacemaker's blow for blow and like overpower him easily. He jumps from like at least 3 stories and in his underwear, and he is left like with no choice but to like run to his car. And it's here we see a really awesome feature of his helmet. He has a helmet with sonic boom. So when the butterfly and I need to look up her name. I know her last name was really hard to pronounce as well. Annie Sturfenhausen? The butterfly, the girl that he slept with from the bar.
Oh, I didn't even know she had a name.
It's Annie Sturfhausen or something like that. I'm butchering that.
I think it was like Sturhausen or something like that. Yeah.
So basically, she's gonna get him like with a butcher knife, like getting ready to kill him, and he sonic booms her, and it just turns her into this mush. And that's when the police start just descending on the scene, and that's what we're left with for episode number 1. So what was your thoughts on just everything as a whole? How do you think that kind of set the tone and just paved the way for episode number 2 for you?
Oh man, like I said, I went into it completely blind, so having no idea as to what the hell to expect. Just the whole setup of like he's supposed to be this cold, methodical killer, and everyone has the government has it out for him and everything, and then you just I know you glazed over it really quickly because we're trying to do this for time, but I can't escape the thought of John Cena dancing around with a vibrator in his hand, singing into it in his tidy whities.
Yeah, and
can we give credit because those were sparkling white? Because I mean, come on.
And it's interesting because this leads us perfect segue for episode number 2. He goes as far as to after killing her, runs into her apartment, and that's when the police start bleeding onto the scene. And then his secret team, they're all like, what did you do? What's going on? We see him start to pocket all these records like in a blanket to steal with him as he's trying to escape the scene, like with police like just filling every hole. Things are getting chaotic, and this was really the scene that kind of sunk it in for me. Best friends for never, and things are not looking good for him. He ends up having to take a hostage, and it's at this scene things get even crazier because the dude's wife wants to smash him.
Oh, that was hilarious when they get into an argument about music. Like, I didn't know you liked Cinderella. You never mentioned it. You never listened to me. Then they get into an argument about Foster the People and Pump Up Kicks. Man.
And so it was interesting to see that interaction. He's able to evade police enough to get away from the scene, and that's when we see Economics switch his fingerprints in the plates of the car to his dad, because his dad's just like this. Each episode just builds him up to be the biggest piece of shit, just racist, does not, and it's like it's blatant. He does not give any single like care in the world for it. Cypher, what was your?
He's incredibly sociopathic about his allegiance to racism.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that? Just that in particular, because that had to have been a little bit heavier.
Oh, that was actually a very interesting. That was actually as far as character development goes, I know it's a despicable character you're supposed to hate, but as a character study of like development through the series, I actually really loved Robert Patrick's portrayal, because in the beginning he just comes off as like a right-wing nut. You just don't think much of it, and then you see his like his storage room of like all of his things where the White Dragon costume is and everything, and it's like a parallel, like it's like a slit into a parallel dimension, which is actually a reference to one of the first appearances of the White Dragon in the comic books, because he defeats somebody who's from another dimension, and that gives him the power to like create dimensional portals.
Oh, see, that's cool. I never knew that. I didn't really look into the White Dragon.
I did no research, man. I did no research.
Hey, you came prepared, man. You came prepared. So things are not looking good for Peacemaker, aka Christopher Smith, and this is when we're introduced to his best friend, Vigilante, and
Austin. Yes.
Yeah, it was insane. I was not expecting that character. I had no idea Vigilante. I think James Gunn did a really good job bringing in a lot of unknown characters into the DC universe and giving them a really awesome personality on screen. And this is where we kind of... Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say, like, yeah, in Suicide Squad, because I did watch it after I watched this show. Like Weasel's actually canon, and like I can't remember. Oh my God, what's his name? Davis, the guy who's dating the Kardashian now. The character he played was canon too, even though he got his face. Yeah, Pete Davidson got his face blown off. Yeah. Yeah, apparently that character was canon too. Every one of them is canon. It's just most people don't know about them. So the fact that he had such deep cuts were interesting to me.
I really, really liked the sequence between them, the character building. We find out that they go out late at night searching for crime and stop it together. They had a really rather intimate moment blowing things up with guns. But it's here that we see them go back to Annie's apartment, and he retrieves a miniature spaceship. Little does he know just how important that spaceship is going to end up being, and that's the end of episode 2. I really felt the tension just at an all-time high. We've really seen just, I guess, Peacemaker's like dumb brute ingenuity at its peak finest as he's trying to evade the police and do it without like getting killed or caught.
Oh yeah, and that agony of why was it the first or second episode? I'm sorry, they all kind of bleed together for me, but yeah, the whole sequence of him trying to jump down each balcony.
That's the second one. Yep.
Yeah, just him hurting himself more and more. It's just it shouldn't have been funny, but it was funny because every time he just laid him out and he just groans and lathers in pain. I'm like, yes, dude. Because you were kind of led to believe that he's like some just like superhuman, but really he's not. He's just a regular human that's just. His vision of peace is what causes him just to be like insanely accurate with gun fights and hand-to-hand combat and all that. Yeah, in comic book lore, he's been trained by the White Dragon from birth, literally, to be a killing machine. That's his sole purpose. That's the only reason that he was allowed to basically become an adult.
So this leads us into episode 3, and very good knowledge, by the way. You're really I wish I would have done a little bit of research. You're really like holding up the team on your shoulders right now. So episode 3, Better Golf Dead, brings us to their next mission, which is Morn briefing them that they need to assassinate a United States Senator, Roland Goff, who is a suspected butterfly. And it's here that we really see the human side of Peacemaker, as he's led to like assassinate a whole family, kids and everything, and he's not able to pull that trigger, and he starts choking, and it's not looking good for them as we see Judo Master start to intervene. What was your thoughts on this episode? I really enjoyed it because not only did we get the introduction to Judo Master, who was just phenomenal, but you got to see Peacemaker choke up on it.
Yeah, seeing the level of humanity in him, and the fact that he's not a pure sociopath, that he can't do it with children, and he tries to put it off to his trademark. Every weapon he has a devil piece on it, but you can obviously tell that's not the case. He has a very strong feeling about assassinating children. And yeah, when Judo Master comes in, that's when it just becomes hilarious because this like 5 foot tall, like, you know, bright green guy comes in and starts kicking everyone's ass. You're like, oh, well. And don't forget the fact that Vigilante come popping in, and who's just a pure sociopath. We can just admit that right now.
Yeah, and Judo Master just you would think he would just get annihilated by Peacemaker, someone who's towering over him, Vigilante with guns, but he just destroys and dismantles everyone, and it's just wild. But as you said, Vigilante gets the job done. He doesn't care. He just aims for the kids first, you know, no hesitation at all. And this brings Vigilante effectively onto the team from this point forward. He is now, you know, a part of what Peacemaker's doing. So I really liked how we seen just kind of the butterfly creatures emerging from the corpse, and seeing what the butterflies actually looked like at this point. This was the first time we got the introduction to what everything looked like. Now at the point,
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say that brought home the point that I don't know if it's DC or if it's James Gunn who likes to keep up the humor, but they have like terrible project names, because Project Starfish from Suicide Squad was literally huge starfish, versus Project Butterfly is just butterflies. Like, these people do not have an advertising department. I
think I want to say they made that joke in one of the episodes. I can't remember which one, but I want to say they made a reference to the starfish thing.
Yeah, Peacemaker did. I think it was either end of episode 1 or episode 2 when they talked about Project Butterfly, and he's like, is it a giant butterfly? Because Project Starfish was a giant starfish. You guys aren't exactly original with these names.
So, but when I was watching Peacemaker, I started a little bit later. I would say right around the time episode 6 or 7 was dropping. So at the time I was watching 2 episodes a week, giving me about a week in between. But this episode is what drove me to kind of just start really binging them. And I'll say that Peacemaker had a moment in the series where I just started binging it, and without shame, I really enjoyed it. The Chode Less Traveled. We see the group has taken Judo Master back to their headquarters where he is bound, and you've seen Economic. Did I say that right?
No, it's Economos.
Economos. I figured I was saying it right. I'm gonna call him Diebeard.
I didn't want to interrupt you and kill the vibe.
No, you're good. You're good. Kill the vibe. I don't want to sound like an idiot. We see him knock him out, so he's like kind of just like bragging and soaking it in, and he has him bounded and he's overlooking him. And this is when
beat his ass with a crowbar.
And this is when things start getting a little bit more chaotic, as we see that his dad's getting more and more tied into the prison system. Peacemaker makes his way to the prison to talk to his dad, and this is when things get a little bit south, because his dad puts the pieces together rather quickly and starts saying that his son's like trying to frame him. He needs to talk to the detective, and that he's been framed, and they don't know what to do. Amanda Waller's daughter puts it in Vigilante's head that they need to get rid of Peacemaker's dad to help him become a better person. And it was just a really awkward moment. You see him just go to it's like just a yard full of police officers, and he barely has the strength to lift up the trash can, but he does, and he throws it into the window to get arrested and put into prison to take on Augie Smith.
Yeah, and the crew, yeah. Yeah, at the end of the last episode as well, that's when it was revealed that he's the White Dragon, because everyone kneels before him.
Yeah. And very Hitler vibe too. Like, damn.
Yeah, they do the Sig Heil vibe. Yeah, I'm obviously not gonna do it, but yeah, they do the whole salute thing, and you're like, oh well, wow, okay. And if you noticed at the in that episode as well, at the end, the detective, she's like, don't capes usually go to Arkham, referencing Gotham itself? Yeah, because that's canon.
Well, so Amanda Waller's daughter, her girlfriend, or was it a girlfriend or wife? Wife. She mentions moving back to Gotham.
Yeah. What I also found really interesting though is if you pay attention, I don't know if the diary was yet, but I'm gonna jump ahead just a little bit to the diary thing. If you look on the cover, there is a sticker for Wayne Enterprises, but it is not regular DCEU, like Wayne Enterprises logo. It's actually the Christopher Nolan version.
Okay, that's interesting too.
Yeah, so like the Ben Affleck, the whole that's not part of this canon, or at least they're not going into it. It's Christopher Nolan's Batman.
So usually I try not to get off tangent, but this brings up a really good, interesting point that I've been wanting to get out there on films, just so I can be like, I said it. I think the easiest way for DC to fix what they have right now is just to introduce everything as different worlds. You have your Earth 0, Earth 3. You could do all sorts of different worlds, and put your different movies on those Earths. Kind of what Marvel did with the MCU and the multiverse. DC can still do that and still salvage everything and put it together. I mean,
oh yeah.
Because everyone's wondering, like, how are these movies in continuity? You could still do it. And the way they do it is with a Flash movie.
Yeah.
Just food for thought. So let's reel it in. Reel it back in.
I was gonna go quick. I was gonna finish it.
Go ahead. You go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say what Marvel did with the one-off movies. Like the obvious example being Logan. Obviously, they reference some things that are prior in canon, but it's its own entity. It's its own universe. That it allows a lot of freedom, and that's what makes it great. And actually, DC did give James Gunn a lot of freedom because they're doing a whole universal, I think they call it Universe 1 or Universe 0 or something like that. But essentially, he's writing the building blocks right now of a new DC universe, and he has free reign to do what he feels he needs to do. That's how Vigilante is part of this whole thing.
Yeah, and I think it could be done. I think the way he handled Guardians of the Galaxy is prime example of it. He took characters that weren't super popular in the MCU and made them household names. Right. Groot and Rocket and Gamora and Drax, I would say, are almost as popular as the Avengers. Give or take some liberties here and there. Maybe not as much as Captain America and Iron Man, but surely as much as the Hulk and Thor and Black Widow, and Hawkeye. All right, so now reeling it back.
Yeah, we're good. Come back.
So things get crazy though. We see Peacemaker and is it it's Adebayo, right?
Adebayo.
I fucking get so close every time. I knew her name was gonna be impossible for me. Adebayo gets her big shining debut as she shoots Judo Master, as he is him and Peacemaker are just going at it, and Peacemaker's about to get his redeeming blow because this guy just whipped the dog shot out of him a couple episodes ago, and then she shoots him, and he's like, "Come on now!" That was I was about to get my finishing blow on him.
Yeah, this was gonna be my big heroic finish. And how they shot it in like a classic shoot at high noon westerns kind of style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this episode ends rather sadly. We see that Peacemaker has indeed captured a butterfly and is keeping it in a jar, and he's really reflecting on what Rick Flag said to him before he killed him about him being a loser, and that really just stuck with him and just kind of started eroding at him on the inside. Things are getting even more intense though, as we see that Chase is in prison, aka Vigilante, and he provokes Augie and beats the shit out of all the guys surrounding him, but he's not able to get to Augie Smith, who is now put into special custody. So how did you feel that this episode wrapped up? I know that you said you wasn't used to the Suicide Squad, so just kind of seeing the Peacemaker as a character on its own, how did you feel about the Rick Flag scene?
Well, it made sense that he obviously had a great level of guilt about it. You can, in the way that they cut it and everything, you could tell that he still had a reverence for Flag and everything. And then it just stuck with him how he basically just, with his dying breath, took a stab at his ego. And obviously, if you can't have that redemption, the guy's dead, it's going to haunt him. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just superficially, because his ego's eternally hurt and he can't redeem himself from it. But you could tell it was a much deeper stab, and it affected him quite deeply. And that really helped the character development, and it really interested me because, like I said, you can tell that he's supposed to just be this muscle-bound, obnoxious, super soldier, but the fact that he cares, the fact that he has a deep devotion toward 80s things, like he mentions, he loves the Garbage Pail Kids. Who outside of the 1980s knows about Garbage Pail Kids?
1989, baby, I know.
Yeah.
Right on the cusp, you're like, you don't count. You don't count. You might have been born in the era, but you don't sit at the table. So we're gonna be breaking into episode 5, Monkey Dory, and this is at Augie's urging. We see Detective Song and Fitzgibbon, reinvestigating everything and realizing that Augie is completely innocent. But things are not that easy, as Morn has kind of managed to get a guy on the inside of the police department. I was really surprised on how easy he was able to do that. Things are even looking more insane, though, as they're finding out that there's a feeding factory and there's this unknown amber fluid, and they need to find out where it's being processed and bottled. And so what was your thoughts on that? We had Casper Locke as the new captain that Morn enlisted. That guy had a very psychotic, like, serial killer vibe. I could not put my finger on it, but that dude just gave me the creepiest fucking feeling ever.
Yeah, he has a very strong sociopathic vibe because he obviously is part of the team, but you can tell that death has absolutely no bearing in his moral compass whatsoever. Yeah,
he loves it.
I don't want to jump ahead, but yeah, he makes a joke about the Hamburglar, and yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, the couple episodes like when the police officers are dying and he's like, oh no, he's like holding their tie. He's like, oh man, like I'm like, oh my god,
fedora, and yeah.
So, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you could tell that he has very strong psychotic tendencies, but he's also very methodical. It's a much deeper character, one that I wish they would have explored maybe a little bit more, but the fact that they didn't, it's still cool. Yeah.
So we see that Song has to go through other means, aka her uncle, who is a judge, to get a police warrant for Peacemaker. But on the other end of it, we see these guys infiltrating the factory that's making this food for the butterfly, and they have a gorilla under control, and it's insane. I remember them saying that, talking about a gorilla getting taken from the zoo not too long. It was like, it was in the earlier episodes.
Yeah, just passive on the TV, and you saw it in newspapers. And an episode later, that a gorilla escaped.
And I knew, I remember telling one of my friends, I was like, this is going to be in a later episode. This elephant,
this is going to amount to something. You can tell they mentioned it too many times.
And it gets so insane, and we see Diebeer come in there with a freaking chainsaw.
Oh yeah.
Because the gorilla just
vigilante.
Yeah, the gorilla just beats the crap out of everyone, and oh man, things get insane, dude. So yeah, what was your thoughts on that? We seen the diary get planted in a Peacemaker's house, and it sucked too because it was great character bonding between him and Amanda Waller's daughter, and you could tell she didn't want to do it. I really felt that she didn't want to, but she had to. There was that confliction that I felt. But it's still like, when you seen it happen, I was like, man, I don't know if I can like this character anymore.
I can still like the character because, like, being a cynic and basically knowing how the character arc was, had an idea how it was going to go. You could tell that she was going to redeem herself, but there's always got to be that fall, because like everyone says on social media, the fall is mandatory. Anyways, sorry, that was really.
You've been waiting to say that.
I know, right? You can tell, right? I screwed it up anyways.
So, the
character, you could tell the character definitely did not want to do that, but it was something that she felt she had to do. One, because her boss, but two, because her boss is her mother. Yeah. And
I would say the biggest reveal, though, was at the end of the episode. We seen her wearing one of Peacemaker's helmets with the X-ray vision, and she sees that Myrn is a butterfly.
Yeah.
And we're left on that cliffhanger, and things are insane. Like, what was your thoughts on that? I had a feeling when I seen just kind of how void he was. You know what I mean? Like,
honestly, I should have seen that coming because James Gunn has an immaculate attention to detail. but I didn't see it coming because like he's been such a passive character in the show so far. I didn't pay him much attention, and that's a fault on mine because, you know, like I said, James Gunn has an immaculate attention to detail, and I should have picked up on that. But the fact that he was so incredibly void of character and emotion, it made perfect sense after it was revealed.
I think they did a good job of making Emily feel like that too. When she, you know, you see her drinking at the bar and she kind of is just super antisocial. It looks like she's like off in her own world. I thought she might have been a butterfly too, because her fighting skill, all that. So yeah, things get crazy, and that leads us to episode 6. We're nearing the end of the series. These last 2 episodes, yeah, because there's only 8, right? Or last 3, we got 6, 7, and 8. Are the heavy hitters. Now, this is when we find out everything as a whole, because up to this point, we knew what the butterflies looked like, but we didn't know why they were here. And come to find out that they came from a dying planet. The Golf Butterfly led the others in a plan to dominate Earth, with Myrn being the one that broke away to stop this plan. They were infiltrating all major celebrities, and it was impossible to know who was a butterfly, because on the outside they looked normal, and it wasn't until they like broke away that's when they started feeding and acting just different and weird. And that was at that point the only way to be able to tell. Now we also find out that there's this massive cow that they are like milking to produce this fluid. So they took out the bottling process factory, but they weren't able to take out the food source, and this would be the only way to effectively kill these guys. Now at the same time though, the Evergreen police force are arriving to arrest Smith, who is at his trailer with Vigilante. Just got into a nice crying session with you know, I love that. Just lying on his bed, just crying. And we also have Augie Smith getting released from prison. So he's on the manhunt to find his son, ready to kill him. And the climax is building. Now they are on the hunt to find this cow, with the police hot on their trail. And we see the main detective of the police force, Song, get infected by a butterfly, who summons more of them. She goes out to summon more of them. So now we have not only an army of police on the hunt for our dear friend Peacemaker, but also eventually an army of butterfly who are coming to take over the world.
She gets taken out. That's when the whole hamburger reference happens. I was reading my notes here to see if anything was going to be relevant to what you were talking about just now.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Like I said, we're taking it episode by episode.
Yeah, that's the part that got me distracted, because I was trying to read my notes here, and I'm like, which ones pertain to this episode? And I don't actually think any of them do. So, but yeah, she gets overtaken by a butterfly, and then she immediately gets up and does the whole Matrix thing with the computer.
It was touching too, because she looks at her detective and she's like, she really liked you, like, because you kind of got that feeling, that romantic relationship tension between them. And like dude, these episodes are hour long. There's 8 of them, 9 of them. I think there's only 8, but
there's like 8, I think.
They do such a good job at building that tension between characters in such a small amount of time. You know, it doesn't take much like script writing for it to happen.
Yeah, the level of chemistry between the characters that's both written and expressed on their faces, it's actually very good. I appreciated that greatly. It's a lot of that's a lot of acting chops from Man I First Saw on Dead Man on Campus, but you know.
Yeah. So
if you remember that at all?
I'd have to dig back a little bit. It's not surfacing on the top of the head right now, but you know. I'll show you later. It'll be hilarious. So it's at this point though, we see that the Evergreen Police Department is taken over by butterflies. So now we have an army of armed butterflies that are coming to take over Peacemaker, and these guys retain all the information and knowledge of the host. So the dude knew to look for the diary, and he publicly incriminates Peacemaker at this point, issuing a like statewide search warrant or arrest warrant for Peacemaker. So now he has all the police on the hunt for him. We also see Augie Smith donning the armor of the White Dragon, and these last 2 episodes are going to be the climax. This is where things get insane. What was your thoughts? Just everything. I thought when the police started getting taken over, it was going to be a fucking shit show. I was like, this is going to get fucking crazy at this point.
Yeah, the second she opened the door and the butterflies start flying in, I'm like, this is the big oh shit moment. You know, like when you reach the third act, and yeah, as everything just coming together. And I was trying to think of a reference in the top of my head, but you know how like it's a classical thing in theater when you show a gun in the first and second acts, it has to go off by the third. That's kind of how like most movies and TV shows are written nowadays. The third act has to be the big one. I never thought
of it like that. I never thought of it like the gun. I thought of the acts, you know what I mean? Like how I looked at different acts, but I never thought of the actual, like if you see a gun in a certain one, it has to go off in this one.
Yeah, it's like a classic theater trope where you present a gun in a threatening manner in the first or second act. By the climax of the third, it has to go off, and then you have to have the redemption and the closing of the story. So that's basically what that moment was to me, was the bang of the whole thing. Like everyone's getting infected, everyone's smiling, and they're trying to figure out how to basically manipulate and control faces, and they look very Joker-esque because they're over-exaggerating their smiles, and you're like, all you can think is like, ah, shit. And then Augie Smith in the White Dragon costume, you're like, yeah, shit is hitting the fan.
And the climax after the bang comes with the next episode, which is Stop Dragging My Heart Around. And this is when we see everything start to happen. We see Peacemaker and the rest of the team go to take on the cow. And it's at this point too, we see Amanda Waller's daughter, the gig's up. They all realize who she is. Morn attempts to leave with them, but things get really, really insane as the butterfly possessed police catch him. And I really had some deep feelings for Morn. I really liked his character at the point, you know, when I heard his story and what he was doing, yeah. I was attached to him. I was like, okay. And to see him get killed, that sucked. And they heard it on the radio. The radio was left open and they heard him get shot, and he tried to fly out. And when Song caught him and squeezed him, I was like, shit, like I felt that deep.
Yeah.
So what was your thoughts on that? Especially when Judo Master comes back. He opens the door, he's like, I'm back, bitches.
Oh God. At that point, to me, he embodied the cockroach that just refuses to die. Like him and Cher, they're the only things surviving the nuclear apocalypse. It's like, God damn it, will you die already?
We also see the team get intercepted by the White Dragon, and things are starting to get insane. We see Eagly taking out people left and right. Vigilante takes one for the team as a grenade. We're left to believe that he was dead, but later on we find out that he wasn't. And it's during this fight that we see what actually happened with Peacemaker and his brother. You know, the tension was built up for quite some time, and we kind of got the ending to the big question, and that was him and his brother were forced to fight each other for like in a pit fight for his dad, and he accidentally hit him too hard and killed him. And he was like, hey, Dad, look, he's like doing the worm as his brother's like seizuring out. And it was really traumatic because once he realized that he was dead, you could see it just like snapped him, you know, on the inside of his head.
Oh, yeah. When that finally reached its climax, because they've been alluding to it, there have been little pieces here and there. Like they showed like flashbacks of him seizing and stuff. And you're like, okay, well, his brother's death was obviously very traumatic. You saw like just before the fighting, they were listening to I think it was Motley Crue. It was Home Sweet Home anyways. With the piano, because they alluded to that at the end of the last episode. Like he played Home Sweet Home on piano, and it's been tying in, and they've been playing little snippets of it every time he has a flashback. And when they finally come to the whole thing, the whole bare knuckles brawl that they were forced to put into in the middle of a pit, and then like literally hit him so hard, like he seized out and he died right there in front of him. That was incredibly like, I wasn't expecting to be slapped upside the head with that much of emotion in this show. We are able to see him effectively take down White Dragon. At this point that we see the rest of the team meet up with the remaining members, and we see Hardcore appointed as the new leader, and this is the final hurrah as they are going up against the army of butterflies to take down the cow before it could be teleported to another enclave, and then they lose, you know, they lose sight of it, they lose the fight because they won't be able to find it ever again.
We see Peacemaker. He's left with not many helmets at all. He was able to raid his dad's outer dimension room and just grab what he could. But things are not looking that good. And this is the big final hurrah. And it was funny seeing Vigilante take over like the vet. He was like ready to kill them, and they're like, "What are you doing, dude?" You know.
That was hilarious when he's concerned about their skin, and but he's like, "We can't use duct tape; it'll hurt their skin when they take it off." But
he's like,
it wouldn't even matter considering he's holding like a P90 to them, and he's ready to take them out.
So this leads us to the last episode, which is It's Cow or Never. I really like the names. I thought the episode names were pretty humorless. Things get really insane as we see that Amanda Waller's daughter makes a reach to request that the Justice League or any other backup be sent out. And I thought that was like some really clever world building, but they actually show up, and I was like really surprised. I was like, what? Like, I didn't think we were gonna see that level of actors, although I don't think Superman was Superman. I think, you know what I mean? I want to say it was just the Flash and Aquaman, right?
Yeah, it was just Jason Momoa and whoever played the Flash. I never saw the Flash movie, or was there a Flash movie? That's how much I know.
Yeah, not yet.
But yeah, whoever plays the Flash in canon, they actually got that actor to come back, and they got Jason Momoa because let's face it, what else is he doing?
Ooh. But so we see them go to take the cow, and we're just kind of condensing this for time's sake. It is an all-out brawl as we see the police butterflies, just getting taken down left and right. Hardcore gets dealt it looked like a fatal blow. I was led to believe that she was gonna die. Diebeard has his legs like snapped, so he's like crawling. It was insane. Like, these guys are getting taken down left and right. We see Peacemaker get stuck in debris. He gets like part of the underground farm like collapsed on him. So it's up to Amanda Waller's daughter to go in there with his helmet, and she I forgot what the move was. She does the spinning attack. Well, remember what it was called? It wasn't the sonic boom. It was
oh, you mean the human torpedo one?
Yes. So they used the sonic boom to cause the farm to collapse, but then the human torpedo they used for her to take down the cow. So she human torpedoes into the cow, which I thought was hilarious. And it's at
not even of her own volition.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
And it's at this point we see just the end of everything start to collapse. Goff's butterfly is spared and is kept in the jar. So I thought he was going to get killed and taken out, but that didn't happen. But we do see Peacemaker's name get cleared in the end. Amanda Waller's daughter gets on national TV, exposes Project Butterfly, Task Force X, and Waller's role in both to the press. Which effectively clears Smith's name when he returns home with Eagly, the butterfly. And it's insane. Like, we're left with the last hallucinations of Augie, which I think might have been like a morbid farewell to his dad. But it was insane, because he was dealing with that like so traumatically.
Yeah, I was actually waiting for you to bring that one up too, because Augie Smith's ghost haunting Peacemaker is actually part of canon as well. It's in the comics. That's what drives Peacemaker's role in James.
You've been waiting for that.
I've been waiting.
You're like, ooh.
But yeah, there's multiple theories in the DCEU about if the helmet somehow is capturing the souls of everyone he's murdered, or if it's just his own psychosis. It's never actually clearly defined, but Peacemaker in comic lore does eventually lose his mind because of all the souls of all the people that he's killed.
That would make sense, and you see him really, like I said, the character building for him was really phenomenal, because in the beginning he was just gun-ho, he didn't care, ready to pull a gun on anything, and now he's like second guessing it if he wants to. I don't know, man. I will say this for the series as a whole. I went into it without like any expectations. I was like, oh, John Cena, I liked him as Peacemaker, but we'll see. And it really was a pleasant surprise. I thought the levels of racism were heavy. It would be a hard movie for me to want to recommend this to someone without like really telling them that part first. Like, hey, there's going to be some really heavy stuff in this. The redemption's good though. When you see him get killed, you feel justified because it was warranted, but it's still heavy. he says some really crazy stuff, and I'd want to make sure people knew that
yeah,
before.
The incredible amount of derogatory terms that he uses, his blatant disregard to anyone who isn't white. Like in comic book lore, he's literally the leader of the Aryan Empire.
I think they do a good job of showcasing that in prison, showing his reach. As soon as he's in there, they just start, I wasn't gonna do it either, but
I know. Even though you won't get flagged for it, it still feels dirty, and you're like, no. But yeah, they do the whole hail thing, and then you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, and the racism was a deep storyline in this whole thing. I feel like that's what really grounded it in humanity, aside from the fact that, like, Peacemaker's development as a person, but giving it that real life tone of like racism exists. This is like people genuinely believe this level of hatred. Like, it's revealed in the final moments of Augie Smith before he's executed by Peacemaker that he's also a religious zealot, and he believed his son was a blasphemer the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
That just rung really true, because like, you're in the Midwest, I'm in the Midwest, you know how deep religion can get and how people can become zealous about it.
Yeah.
Like, I actually know people who are like that, so that really rung true to me, and that's what really grounded in reality and made me go from like, this is entertaining to like, this is fucking amazing.
Yep. So overall, what would your final thoughts be on this? To someone who's on the edge about watching it, would you say this is something like a must watch, or something you don't have to watch right away? I guess like
unquestionably, I would definitely have to say it's a must watch, and I know I cut you off. I'm sorry. I'll let you finish that in a second, but. But yeah, dude, it is definitely without a doubt a must watch, because it has action, it has comedy, but it also has like really deep philosophical undertones to it that makes you like look around and realize what people are like, what the world is like. It's like a cold hard take on everything, but at the same time, it's done in such a comedic fashion. I enjoyed it greatly.
So for me, like, I don't know, and I can't really say this is for sure, but it felt like there was an underlining message about second chances too, because Peacemaker, you come off as him being a racist and everything, but at the end of the day, how much his dad had influence on that, like, it's really hard to say that. It's hard to say that he's a racist, because he wanted to change. When he saw the errors of his ways, he realized how bad they were, and he wanted to change. So he was like a born again person.
Yeah, that's the clear defining thing that made him great. Is like, Augie technically was supposed to be a hero at first too, but then he started going into targeting specifically minorities because of hatred. Peacemaker more or less targeted more minorities because he was trying to appease his father. He was always seeking his father's approval his entire life.
Well,
that's the main difference, I honestly believe, because he was trying to appease his father and be a good person, and you can't do that when the person you're trying to please is a white supremacist.
Yes, and he didn't know better. I mean, it really opened up your eyes to like how much influence something like that, and while you could think it was okay and like it's love, like someone on the outside's like, dude, this is toxic, this is not right, like you should have not been raised that way. So I thought it was a nice touch, and maybe James Gunn didn't effectively, I guess, mean for that to happen, but I felt that was a nice message about second chances. Like, his dad definitely was not going to change, but Peacemaker had the groundwork for it. He just needed to be shown like a new way.
Exactly.
So with that being said, guys, I do think it's a good time for us to wrap up. This was a fucking awesome podcast. Cypher, it was a blast having you on.
Yeah, man, I was a little nervous at front, but we got through it. So yeah, man, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I try to do a good job of reeling it in and trying to make it nice and lukewarm for you to dip the toes in. As always, guys, this is Cody, your Caped Crusader. We're here with my good friend Cypher, and we've been keeping it geekly about Peacemaker. We're gonna be dropping this episode sometime soon, hopefully within the next day. Stay tuned for the upcoming podcast and our indie comic interviews. We're gonna be doing one March 3rd with There's an Alien in My Toilet. So without any further hesitation,
really the title?
I do. Yeah, it's an awesome one too.
I know you're doing your spiel, but I'm like, that's really the title?
Yeah, dude, we're gonna be hanging out with our good friend Duty. Dude, and that's the whole point. It's comical humor,
Oh god, I'm gonna have to check that out now.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome. We're doing it live, so you can be in there, check it out. That'll be March 3rd on the Keeping It Geekly podcast and YouTube channel. So without further ado, though, let's go ahead and sum it up, guys. This is Cody, your Caped Crusader, and as always, guys, keep it geekly.